Rory just walking in. Where have you been?
What are you, a copper?
You just about made it back.
Wait, I made it, didn't I?
You did make it. Transfer Insiders, Adi Oladipo, Rory, Jennings, you hear it. Who am I? A bit of who am I? I remember texting 1089. First clue, who am I? This player has scored against a home nation for England. I mean, that could be 1,000 to be honest, isn't it? Good, that's good. Good luck on that one.
Dan Sturridge.
It could be it, because you just saw him on the TV, didn't you?
I remember him scoring when we played against Wales in Lons.
Yeah. Could be Daniel Sturridge. It could be. Get your texts in right now. 81089. This player has scored against a home nation for England. Could be anyone. Could be Gaza.
Could be Gaza.
Could be Gaza.
Could be Gaza.
Could be Gaza. Yeah, could be. All right, buy or sell. Let's welcome in Paul McAllister from the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. Paul, appreciate you coming on as always, my man. Thank you very much. You know, I've got a list here in front of me of buy or sell. Should we just say sort of buy, sell or keep?
Keep.
Let's just say sell or keep. Mate, I'll be honest with you, Paul. I mean, you could sell a lot of them here. I mean, this could be quite a painful sort of 10 minutes. It could be, couldn't it?
Yeah, it's an interesting squad there.
It's a very interesting squad. There's players of all different ages who come from different backgrounds. There's players who are on the way up, some players who are on the way down, some players who've kind of not really done a lot in the last few years, and you're wondering, are they ever going to kick on in their careers? So yeah, it's definitely a transition period for Everton at the moment.
Should we start with the forward line? Because that's what kind of just immediately sort of I was looking at, like, there's a few that they need to kind of get rid of here. Or maybe not. Maybe you can see it differently from us, Paul. Let's start with the man that I really thought was going to kick on and have an outstanding career. It's been blighted by injuries, if I'm honest with you, and that's Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Do you keep Dominic Calvert-Lewin or do you sell him?
Well, he's got a year left on his contract, and it's, from all the noises that are coming out, seem to be that he doesn't want to sign for an extension. If he wants to leave, then personally I wouldn't blame him. I mean, I don't think Dominic Calvert-Lewin thinks he's going to go walk into the Manchester City team or anything. I think he might just be at that headspace now where he feels just a change of environment will maybe help him get over his injury problems and just get his confidence back here and work with a different sort of manager, a progressive manager maybe, with better players around him. So I like Calvert-Lewin. I'd really like him to sign a new deal, but if he's adamant he doesn't want to sign one, then I think it's time to cash in. We can't let him just run his contract down and then he goes for nothing.
Are you surprised by this at all, Paul? I would have thought that Dominic Calvert-Lewin almost owes Everton a little bit. You've persevered with him, haven't you? I mean, there was that period where he was excellent under Carlo Ancelotti, but that was a long time ago now. Would you have expected more of a commitment from Calvert-Lewin himself?
I think some fans feel that way, definitely. I think that's just football fans in general for you, but you can't be naive. You know, footballers have only got one career and they're going to do what they feel is best for them, and they're not going to put themselves out. Majority of them are not going to, just to kind of repay some faith from a football club. Football club is just an employer at the end of the day, and if they feel that they can get the best out of themselves somewhere else, and there is an offer on the table, which apparently there is from Calvert-Lewin from a couple of clubs, then they're going to probably take it. As I said, I think with Calvert-Lewin, it's not because he suddenly is turning his nose up at Everton or anything. I don't think he wants to leave because he's fallen out with anybody. I just think maybe he feels a different environment, because I think he's 26, 27. Now he's not a young player. If he's going to have a really good second half of his career, then maybe he just thinks I've got to do it in a different place with a different manager.
Well, that's Dominic Calvert-Lewin. On the other side, there is sort of Beto, who came in and everyone thought maybe he could offer something. And let's be honest, we haven't seen much from him at all. Do you keep him or do you get rid?
I'd be all for giving Beto another year, personally. Yeah. It does happen where strikers come in from Italy or Spain and they need 12 months to just kind of get the legs under them and learn a couple of lessons. So I would not be looking to push Beto out the door. But again, if an offer comes in and it's pretty good, Everton are not really in the position, I don't think, to be turning our nose up for a good offer for a player, as you said, who's not contributed a lot. But he wouldn't be top on my sell list. No, I'd be willing to give him another chance.
This is looking fairly pitiful up front, Paul. I didn't realise it was quite as poor as this. Arnaud Danjuma, how are you feeling about him?
Danjuma, he's a bit of a journeyman. He was played for Bournemouth a few years ago. Then he went out to Spain, Villarreal. It hasn't worked out. He went on loan to Tottenham under Antonio Conte. Didn't kick a ball. Then he came here last season and he barely kicked a ball again. I mean, some of that was down to injury. He got pretty nasty injury around the winter period where he would have got some minutes. But as soon as he recovered and a few other players recovered, Sean Dyche just didn't seem to trust him at all and didn't give him a chance. So I think he's gone back to Villarreal and there's no interest in bringing him back, which is strange. I was hoping to see a lot of him last season, but it just wasn't to be. And if the manager's made his mind up on him, then it just doesn't look like he's going to come back.
Right, they're the big names up front. Let's go to the midfield, because this is probably where there are some sort of players that I'm guessing you'd want to keep. And look, I thought if I asked you this a week ago, you would have said yes, you wanted to keep him, but obviously he's no longer at the club, and that's Onana. It looks like he's on his way to Aston Villa. A big money move for him. Are you upset about this, or are you happy to get the money that you can then hopefully use in the transfer market?
I think we've got to be happy with the money. Onana's a very raw player who has got definitely got some gifts, but I think he's at the stage now where he needs to be around better players if he's going to hit his potential. And I think Everton realistically knew when we signed him 2 years ago that we were going to flip him for a profit. Ideally, it's just what 90% of clubs do now. They buy young and then they sell on for a profit. And I think he's going for a reported 50 million. I think we got him for about 30 million plus add-ons. So that's a cosy profit. I think he's a good player, but I think he'll look like an even better player in Aston Villa's side, who are just a lot more creative than Everton's is currently.
Paul, Dele Alli is still an Everton player. Do you think that he will feature for you next season?
I'm not sure with Dele Alli. I mean, the stories that are coming out are Everton kind of want to give him a pre-season and maybe offer him a deal, but we have to see how that works with the agreement we've got with Tottenham. The agreement initially with Tottenham when we signed him was after he hit a certain appearance threshold, we had to pay them 10 million. And he didn't hit that appearance threshold before the end of last season when his contract expired. And I think if we want to offer him a new deal, Tottenham are going to be sticking their hands out and saying, well, you still owe us for the initial agreement that was in place. So I'm not expecting anything from Dele Alli if we did sign him, sad to say. I'd love for Dele Alli's story to kind of have a happy ending in terms of his football career. But I think sometimes you've just got to accept that, as much as the wills might be there, Dele Alli's not going to go back to being the player he was for Tottenham in 2018. So I'm all for the club helping him out and letting him stay fit. But if we do offer him a deal, I don't expect much.
It's crazy when you say that the player that was at Tottenham at 2018, 6 years ago, and we are still hoping to see some of that Dele Alli. If you haven't seen it now, you're never going to see it. 6 seasons. Dwight McNeil is a player that sometimes he shines and sometimes he doesn't. He's one that I can't make my mind up at. What mind have you made up about Dwight McNeil?
I think Dwight McNeil at this current time suits where Everton are perfectly, which is he's not a bad player. I think he's a goodish player. Is he England's international material? No. There's a lot of better players in and around the international setup in his positions who he's never going to get close to. But Everton are not a top half side currently. Don't look like we could be a top half side or a side that challenges for Europe in the next couple of seasons. I think there's a lot of work to do. So sometimes you just got to go with what you've got and be smart. And I think that's what Dwight McNeil is. He's a 6 out of 10 player. There's a lot of effort there. Sometimes you'll be a man of the match, but yeah, he's not a whale beater, and no one should expect him to be a whale beater. The same way Everton are not a whale beating club.
Paul, last season you had an excellent back line. What Sean Dyche managed to do to that defence was exemplary. You just weren't conceding goals. You were so miserly at the back. You obviously want that form to continue into the new season. I'm looking at your defence here. What are you thinking with regard to, say, a player like Seamus Coleman? Do you think he will stay at Everton?
Yeah, he's been offered a new deal, but I think it's more just a ceremonial type thing for Seamus. I think they kind of just want to have him around the place because he's a friendly face. He's a good influence on young players on the pitch. I think his time is short. He's not going to be a starter for Everton next season, surely, at his age, and he's had a history of injuries as well. So I'm glad that Seamus has stayed around the place. But if we're starting Seamus Coleman as our first choice right back next season, then that tells you that Everton have still got a lot of work to do when it comes to kind of rebuilding their squad.
In terms of that, I guess the same might be said about Ashley Young. Obviously, he's been given another year extension or another year to his deal. Were you surprised by that, Ashley getting another year?
I was and I wasn't. Sean Dyche is clearly likes Ashley Williams. They go back a long way. I think they even played together at one point before Sean hung his boots up. So he clearly trusts Ashley, and Ashley's an exemplary pro to keep himself as fit as he is when he's kicking on to 40, and he's been at a lot of clubs. He's a league winner for United. He's been over to Inter Milan and did well there. He's played in some brilliant Aston Villa teams down the years. So I wasn't surprised in that sense. But like I said, his age is against him. His time on the field is short, and if Everton are relying on a player like that next season, then I don't really think it's going to be much more than a relegation battle. But yeah, I think he's just kind of around the place because what he can offer off the pitch more than what he can offer on it.
Paul, Jared Branthwaite, he was a huge reason as to why you were so good not
Fantastic
conceding goals
player.
last season. A wonderful player. I think he was really shortchanged not to be in the England side. Firstly, do you think you can keep hold of him? You know, Manchester United are certainly open admirers of his abilities. Do you think he'll be an Everton player come the start of the season?
I do, yeah, because unless Manchester United come up to Everton's valuation, then the player's not leaving.
What is that valuation? What do you think it is?
Well, as much as you can get, really. I mean, I would be disappointed if we got anything less than 70 million. Now, people might roll their eyes at that, but United have spent more than that on a lot of players who've gone there and done nothing. They can spend 80 million on Harry Maguire. If they can spend 80 million on Anthony, that winger. If they could spend 60 million on this Euro guy who's coming in from Lille, who no one's ever seen, then Manchester United have got the money, and if they don't want to stump up the money, then there's no deal. So I want Jared Branthwaite to stay. It's looking increasingly likely like he's going to stay. I'm delighted. Everton are not in the position now where we have to sell just to get over the PSR guidelines. Otherwise, we'd have made the deal before July 1st. So Everton hold all the cards when it comes to that deal. And the players certainly not pushing for a move, by the looks of it. So we're under no pressure.
Paul, very, very quickly, Paul, what's your expectations for this coming season? Again, we've spoken about players leaving the club as opposed to players coming in. Obviously, you're hoping to do some business as well on that part. But what's your expectations? It can't be another season of sort of fighting relegation, can it?
No, I'm very hopeful that it won't be. If you take away the points deductions that Everton got hit with last season, we'd have finished on 48 points.
Yeah.
And 48 points is well clear a relegation battle. We would have been clear. We would have been clear in mid-April easily had we not had those deductions. And those deductions in themselves, at the timing of them through the entire season, to disarray. So the players kind of lost confidence and didn't know what was happening from one month to the next. So I think just with some stability and Sean Dyche and the players being left alone to just get on with things and not having to deal with all of these, sanctions and going to tribunals and having to find out what's happening with the club when they see online about point deductions and stuff. If we can just get to 48, 50 points again, that's another season of stability. It's the last year of Goodison. We don't get embarrassed in terms of a relegation battle. We can just say goodbye to Goodison with our heads held high and go into the new stadium, and hopefully the future's bright from there. But yeah, just no more dramas. Something nice and boring would be lovely.
I don't know.
Doesn't sound likely.
Doesn't sound like Everton.
Paul.
Paul, top man, appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. Paul McAllister from the Toffee Blues YouTube channel.